Hello, and welcome to Mysteries of the Burrows. I am Ted Stonewall, and these are my adventures, so cozy up, grab a blanket, have some coffee, have some tea, and let us prepare for
The mystery of the false inheritance. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Expensive paper, the kind with weight to it. Cream-colored, smooth under my fingers. The kind of paper that announced itself as important before you even broke the seal. I was in the mill office, updating the ledger. 32 sacks of grain in storage. The numbers balanced. They always did when I counted them myself. A knock at the door pulled me from the columns. Not the usual knock of a farmer delivering grain or a housewife collecting flour. This was hesitant, uncertain. But I opened the door to find Ivy Goodchild standing there, clutching a letter in both hands like it might fly away if she loosened her grip. Ivy was the sort of woman people called unfortunate. Not ugly, exactly, but plain in a way that seemed to disappoint her every time she looked in a mirror. 40-something, never married, living alone in a small smile on the edge of Burrow Town. The kind of person who attended every social event but somehow never quite belonged at any of them.
Mr. Stonewall,
she said, her voice tight.
I need your help.
I stepped aside to let her in. She moved past me into the small office, still clutching the letter. Her hands were shaking.
Sit down.
She sat in the chair across from my desk, set the letter down carefully like it was something precious or dangerous.
What's this about?
I received this letter 3 days ago. It says I've inherited money, a great deal of money, from a distant relative I never knew existed.
I picked up the letter, read it slowly, and the handwriting was neat, professional. The paper was quality stock, like I'd noticed. The seal at the bottom looked official, embossed with what appeared to be a family crest. According to the letter, Ivy had inherited 1,500 silver pennies from a third cousin twice removed, one Cornelius Goodchild, recently deceased in Bree. The inheritance was substantial, the letter explained, and required only a small administrative fee to process the paperwork and transfer the funds. 50 silver pennies, payable immediately to facilitate the transfer. I set the letter down.
Mazda, this is a fraud.
Now Ivy's face went white.
But the letter, the seal, it looks so official.
And that's the point. It's meant to look official.
I turned the letter over, examining the back. No watermark. The paper was good quality, yes, but not the kind used for legal documents. And the seal, while impressive, was too generic. No specific family details, no unique markings.
Have you paid the 50 pennies?
Not yet. I wanted to ask you first. Walter Hayward said you helped him with that problem last month. He said you see things others miss.
I thought about Walter's recommendation, about the silver pennies I'd earned finding his ram, about the reputation I was apparently building.
Who sent this letter?
A solicitor in Bree. His name is at the bottom, Reginald Kettlewell, Esquire.
I looked at the signature. Elaborate, confident, the kind of signature that suggested legitimacy.
Did you know you had a cousin named Cornelius?
No, but my family is large and we've lost touch with many branches. It's possible.
Have you verified this with anyone in Bree?
She shook her head.
The letter says time is of the essence, that the inheritance must be claimed within 10 days or it reverts to other heirs.
Of course it did. Urgency was part of the game. Rush the mark. Don't give them time to think or verify.
I'll look into this, but don't send any money yet.
How much do you charge?
10 silver pennies. If it's legitimate, you'll have plenty to pay me. If it's fraud, I'll have saved you 50.
She nodded, pulled a small purse from her pocket, and counted out 10 coins. Her hands were still shaking.
Oh, please hurry. The deadline is in 7 days.
I will.
After she left, I sat at my desk and studied the letter again. Everything about it was designed to seem legitimate while remaining just vague enough to avoid specific details that could be easily checked. No address for the deceased cousin, no details about how he'd acquired his wealth, no explanation of why Ivy specifically had been chosen as an heir over other family members. But just the promise of money and the demand for an immediate payment to claim it. And I knew fraud when I saw it. I'd seen enough of Victor Chansley's schemes at the Badger's Den to recognize the pattern. But knowing it was fraud and proving it were different things, and I needed proof before I could tell Ivy she was being swindled. The post office smelled of paper and sealing wax. Violet Weed Whisker stood behind her counter, sorting mail with the efficiency of someone who'd been doing it for 30 years. And she looked up when I entered.
Ted Stonewall, don't often see you here.
I need to ask about a letter.
And I showed her Ivy's inheritance letter.
Ah, yes. That one came through 3 days ago, from Bree, according to the postmark.
You remember it specifically?
Quality paper like that stands out. Most letters are cheap stuff. This was expensive, made me notice.
Was it the only letter from Bree that day?
Violet's eyes narrowed slightly. She was sharp, always had been. She understood what I was really asking.
I know. There were 3 others. All the same quality paper, all addressed to different people in Burrowtown.
3 others, a pattern.
Who were the other recipients?
Can't tell you that. Postal confidentiality.
Even if those letters might be fraudulent?
She considered this, lips pressed thin.
Now one went to Beatrice Meadowsweet, one to Millicent Ironwood, one to Constance Bitterweed.
I knew all 3 names, all women, all unmarried or widowed, all living alone with modest means but some savings. Perfect targets.
Thank you.
So Ted, if this is what I think it is, you should tell Fletcher Thornhill. This is constable business.
I will, after I have proof.
She nodded, but her expression said she knew I was walking into something complicated. I found Victor Chansley at the Badger's Den, where else? Mid-afternoon on a work day, and he was already 2 ales in, laughing too loud at his own jokes. Victor was the kind of Burrow folk who always had a scheme running. Small-time stuff, mostly. Card games with loaded odds. Bets he'd rigged in advance. Nothing big enough to get Fletcher's attention, but enough to keep him in ale money. And I sat down across from him without asking.
Ted Stonewall. Don't usually see you in here during daylight hours.
Need information.
Mom, information costs money.
Or I could tell Fletcher about that dice game last week. The one with the weighted dice.
His smile didn't falter, but something shifted in his eyes.
What do you want to know?
Inheritance scams. Letters from supposed relatives in Bree offering money in exchange for processing fees.
Victor took a long drink of his ale.
That's a new one. Not my style. Too much paperwork, too much risk. But I've heard of it. Common trick in the bigger towns.
How does it work?
You send letters to lonely people. Promise them inheritance from relatives they never knew. Make it sound official. Ask for a small fee to process the paperwork. They pay, you disappear. Simple.
How do you pick the targets?
You look for patterns. Unmarried women, widows, people living alone, people who might believe they've been forgotten by their families, people desperate enough to want it to be true.
Everything he said matched what I'd seen. 4 letters, 4 lonely women, all with modest savings.
If you wanted to run this scam in Burrowtown, how would you do it?
I wouldn't. Too small. Everyone knows everyone. Can't disappear after you've taken the money. You'd need to be from outside. Someone passing through.
Or someone with an excuse to travel. Someone who could collect the payments and leave town without raising suspicion.
Victor studied me over his ale.
You think you know who's running this?
I'm working on it.
Be careful, Ted. Whoever's doing this is smarter than your average thief. They've put thought into it. That makes them dangerous.
And I left Victor to his ale and walked back out into the afternoon sunlight. I had patterns now. 4 women, all targeted, all told to send money to Bree. But who had the knowledge, the means, and the motivation to run a scheme like this? Lawrence Quillwright's law office smelled of old paper and pipe smoke. He looked up from his desk when I entered, adjusting his spectacles.
Peace, Ted. What can I do for you?
Need to verify an inheritance claim from Bree. Supposed relative named Cornelius Goodchild, recently deceased.
But Lawrence frowned, reaching for a thick ledger on his shelf.
Give me a moment.
He flipped through pages, running his finger down columns of names and dates. After several minutes, he shook his head.
No record of a Cornelius Goodchild in Bree. No deaths registered under that name in the past year. No inheritance claims filed.
You're certain?
I correspond regularly with the legal offices in Bree. If there had been a significant inheritance, I would have heard of it, especially one involving a resident of Burrow Town.
So it was confirmed. The inheritance was fake.
What about a solicitor named Reginald Kettlewell?
No one by that name practices law in Bree. I know all the solicitors there. That name is invented.
Lawrence set down his ledger and looked at me seriously.
This is fraud, Ted. Someone's running a confidence scheme. If you have evidence, you should report it to Fletcher immediately.
I will, once I know who's behind it.
Be careful. Whoever this is, they're organized. This takes planning and resources.
I thanked Lawrence and left. I had confirmation now. The inheritance was fake. The solicitor was fake. Everything about the letter was designed to separate lonely women from their savings. But I still didn't know who was running it. I spent the next 2 days watching, observing, counting. And the thing about patterns is that they're invisible until you know to look for them. Then they're everywhere. I watched Ivy Goodchild smile, watched Beatrice Meadowsweets, watched Millicent Ironwoods and Constance Bitterweeds. On the 3rd day I saw it. A figure approaching Beatrice's door, well-dressed, confident, carrying a leather satchel. And Victor Chansley. I watched from behind a hedge as he knocked. Beatrice answered. They spoke briefly. Victor pulled papers from his satchel, showed them to her. She nodded, disappeared inside, returned with a small purse. Victor counted the coins carefully, nodded, handed her a receipt, and left. I followed him at a distance. He visited Millicent next. Same pattern, papers, purse, receipt. Then Constance. 3 collections in one afternoon. He was heading to Ivy's smile when I stepped out in front of him.
Ted, didn't expect to see you here.
Collecting payments for inheritance processing fees?
And his smile didn't reach his eyes.
Just running errands. Nothing illegal about that.
Then accept the inheritances are fake. There is no Cornelius Goodchild, no Reginald Kettlewell, no money in Bree waiting to be claimed.
Victor's hand tightened on his satchel.
That's a serious accusation.
I verified it with Lawrence Quillwright. No deaths registered, no inheritance claims filed. You're collecting money for a fraud.
Prove it.
The proof is in your satchel, the receipts you're carrying, the coins you just collected from 3 women who think they're paying processing fees for inheritances that don't exist.
We stood there in the lane, afternoon sun casting long shadows. Victor was calculating. I could see it in his eyes. Wondering if he could talk his way out. Wondering if he could run.
What do you want?
Return the money, all of it, to all 4 women, and leave Burrow Town.
And if I don't?
I go to Fletcher, with evidence, with witnesses, with receipts. You'll be in the lockup by sunset.
Victor's jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought he might try to run. But he was smart enough to know he wouldn't make it.
You've ruined a perfectly good scheme, you know that?
That was the idea.
And he opened his satchel, pulled out the coins he'd just collected, and thrust them at me.
I'll return them yourself. I'm done with this.
And he turned and walked away, heading toward the road out of town. I watched until he was out of sight. Then I took the coins he'd collected and added them to the ones already in my pocket. 150 silver pennies total, minus the 10 Ivy had already paid me. I had some returns to make, and I returned the money that evening, all of it. Beatrice first, then Millicent, then Constance, then Ivy. Each woman reacted differently. Beatrice with relief, Millicent with anger at being fooled, Constance with bitter satisfaction that her cynicism had been proven right. Ivy cried.
I wanted it to be real. I wanted to believe someone remembered me, that I mattered to someone, somewhere.
And I stood in her doorway, uncomfortable with her tears, not knowing what to say.
You matter, just not to a fictional dead relative.
That it wasn't comforting, but it was honest. She took the money, 50 silver pennies returned to her, and closed the door quietly. But I walked back to the mill in the gathering darkness. The bright water flowed past, constant and indifferent. The wheel stood still, waiting for morning. I'd solved the case, stopped the fraud, returned the money, done everything right. So why did I feel hollow? On the next morning I reported the fraud to Fletcher Thornhill, gave him all the details, Victor's name, The pattern, the fake inheritance letters. Now Fletcher listened, taking notes in his careful handwriting.
Good work, Ted. You probably saved those women their life savings.
Victor's gone. Left town yesterday.
I'll send word to the surrounding areas. If he tries this again, they'll be watching for him.
But we both knew Victor wouldn't try it again. At least not the same way. He'd move on, find a new scheme, target a new town. And that's how people like Victor worked, always moving, always adapting, always one step ahead.
You've got a knack for this, you know. Seeing patterns, following evidence, solving problems.
Just paying attention. Most folk don't.
That's what makes you good at it.
When I left Fletcher's office and walked back to the mill. The morning sun was bright, the air cool and clean. A good day for grinding grain. Her father was already at work, opening the sluice. Water began flowing over the wheel and the familiar creaking started. The sound I'd known my whole life. Now I went inside and counted the grain sacks in storage. 32, same as yesterday. And some things you could count on. And that evening, Ivy Goodchild came to the mill. She stood at the door, hesitant again, like she'd been when she first arrived with the letter.
Mr. Stonewall, I wanted to thank you, properly.
You already paid me. We're settled.
And not for the investigation, for being honest, for not letting me send that money.
She pulled a small wrapped package from her bag and held it out.
I baked these. Oat cakes. Nothing fancy, but I wanted you to have them.
And I took the package, unsure what to do with kindness I hadn't asked for.
Thank you.
And Mr. Stonewall, what you said last night about mattering, you were right, I do matter, just not in the way I'd hoped.
She smiled then, small, sad, but genuine.
Sometimes that's enough.
Now she left before I could respond. I stood in the doorway holding her package of oatcakes, watching her walk down the lane toward her lonely smile. Well, sometimes that's enough. And I wasn't sure I believed it, but maybe she did. And maybe that was what mattered. Till late that night, grinding grain in the darkness, I thought about the case. About Victor's scheme and the lonely women he'd targeted. About the fake inheritances that promised belonging and left only disappointment. 4 women, all alone, all hoping someone somewhere remembered them. All willing to pay for the possibility of connection. And I understood that better than I wanted to admit. And the wheel turned, the stones ground, the flour dust hung in the lamplight like suspended snow. I'd stopped the fraud, saved the money, did my job. Yes, but I couldn't give them what they really wanted. Couldn't create the family connections they longed for, couldn't make them matter to people who'd never known they existed. And truth was a cold comfort sometimes, but it was what I had, what I could offer. And the wheel kept turning, the water kept flowing, the mill kept grinding. And somewhere in Burrow Town, 4 women slept a little easier, their savings intact, their hopes disappointed, but their dignity preserved. Sometimes that's enough. I counted the sacks again before bed, 32, same as always. Some things you could count on.
Thank you for listening to the mystery of the false inheritance. If you have enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to hear more of my stories. Our next adventure is a mystery of the innocent accused. Have a cozy day.